Hi there. So in this video, the first thing we're gonna do is we will create our first WeWeb project. Very simple. All you need to do is log into WeWeb and click on Create Project, and it will give you a bunch of templates you can choose from. If you're new, if you're trying to learn WeWeb, I do not recommend you getting a template because templates kind of put you in a box of what is available in that template, and there will be some things you know how to do it VWeb, some things you don't, and you won't know how the templates were created. I don't really like templates, but if you choose to work with templates, it's up to you. I personally, if you're starting brand new, I say you're better off starting from a blank slate instead of relying on templates, because most of the templates you wouldn't have a clue what are the adjustments that the designer of that template has done. Alright, so with that said, I'm gonna go for a blank project, and let's name this, give this project a name. So our first project will be how to create a chat GPT like application, but this is for Christians, right? So it's gonna be called AI Jesus. So aijesus.org. I'll just name it that and click on create project, and that will create our project here. Now let's try opening it. I'm gonna open that. All right, so this is our starter template. It's just the home page. So here's the WeWeb editor. I just want to give you an overview of WeWeb editor as well. So on the top left corner, here is where if you click on it, it's going to show you all the available pages you have. So in WeWeb right now, when you're starting with a blank template, the only page that would be in here is the home page. So that's why you see just the home page. If you keep on adding new pages, it's gonna show up here, right? So you can add new pages by clicking on add page, test, and just create it. So here you can see there's a new page, right? So you can switch from home page and test page and configure these pages however you want. So when you're building an app, obviously you will have multiple pages, right? So you will have a home page, a dashboard, a chat page. I mean, depending on your application, it really changes, but that's what's gonna be available on this drop down here. You can select from different pages, right? And right next to pages, there is the language selector. In WeWeb, you can build different variations of the same app. By variation, I mean different languages, right? Say for example, you're building an app that's like similar to ChatGPT, but you want it in both French and English. Then you can add a language by clicking on here, add language. So you'll be able to give both the French and English versions of every single text you are entering in your app, so that it can quickly be translated. All right. Okay, so that's what's available here. And if you click on this add, this is where most of the crazy stuff happens. Add is where you can add a bunch of things onto your canvas, right? So this is like a drag and drop editor. What that means is you can drag and drop elements from this menu here and make stuff happen in the screen of your app, right? So when you're starting, let's just say you want to show a simple image, right? So all you do is just click on add. Then there are a bunch of elements. There are timers, video elements, drop downs, paginations. We'll talk about all of those in the upcoming few videos, but for an example here, I'm just gonna drag and drop in an image, right? So here I just dragged and dropped an image, and here you can see big image. Now if I want to replace it with a real image, I can just click on upload, and I will upload a sample image from my temp folder. I don't know what this is, but I'll upload. All right, so let's just assume you want to show this image in your app. like blown up. Don't worry, we will show you, or I will show you how you can fix the size and dimensions of it. But just for now, understand you can drag and drop elements, right? And what we will do when we build an app is we will try to make a basic wireframe of how our app is gonna look like, so that we can refer to that wireframe before we build the actual app in WeWeb, right? So wireframe will be a reference, and we will build the app according to that wireframe here. So dragging and dropping an image, it was just a demo. Just like this, you can drag and drop videos, you can drag and drop tables, you can basically build a pretty good app just with WeWeb. If you're brand new, this might look confusing. Hey, dragging and dropping an image, how would that help? Like I said, once you have a structure down, once we learn how to build containers, how to build tables, how to arrange items on a screen. For example, this image, it looks blurred, right? But I can like quickly change the width and stuff on the right hand side. So like this, we will build this app or make this app look pretty good in the upcoming few videos. All right. So right now, just understand, from add, you can drag and drop a lot of elements, right? And depending on what you need, depending on your needs, these things can change. Okay. So that would be drag and drop. Now, if you click on a particular element, say for example, this is an element called a section, right? Section, and inside that section we have an image. And if you click on any of the elements, you can see on the right hand side, wherever my mouse is right now, it will change the properties. All right. So section is basically like a box or a container where you can put multiple elements. So think of it like a folder, but this folder also has some properties. For example, if you want to set the maximum width of this folder, I'm saying folder just for the new guys to understand, but basically what this means is it's a container. All right, this contains a lot. It can contain images, videos, login pages, buttons. It can contain a lot of things. So that's what a section means. So here, if I click on a section on the right hand side, I can see a lot of options that are connected with a section, right? And one of them is width. For example, I want the width of this section to be just 500 pixels. Now you can see everything inside this section becomes 500 width, 500 pixels, right? You can go for percentages as well, like percentage. Let's say you only want to do a 50% of the screen. It's a bit advanced for someone who is starting like brand new, so I'm just going to stick with pixels. So if you want to go for 500 pixels, like 500, that's the width of this section. Now, no matter what you add inside this section, it's gonna be the width is gonna be 500, right? So that is how sections work. And if you click on the image, then inside section you can have multiple things, right? So you can have multiple images. Let's say I'm gonna drag and drop another image here, image, right? So I'll just drag and drop another image. Let me add or upload a different image. I don't know what this is gonna be. Oops, I will select something else. Oh yeah, I'll do this. Okay, smart talk. All right, so now we have two images, right? So remember what I said, since this is a section, I can set a width to that section, and everything inside that section will have that same width. If I change the width here, so from 500, if I change it to 800, you can see everything just became bigger, right? So I'll just stick with 400 or 500 for now. And inside the section, each of these elements can have multiple widths or multiple properties. Width is just a property I'm showing. You can set height, you can set padding, there are a bunch of things you can set. So for now, I just want to show you an example how WeWeb editor works. So I can specifically select an image, and then I can also adjust its parameters. Say for example, my width for this logo here, it should be like 200, right? I don't want that to be big, so I can adjust the width of that to be 200. Okay, so similarly, you can add multiple elements like buttons, list, and all that, and make this better. And one other really cool thing about WeWeb is, like I said at the beginning, it's a drag and drop editor. So if you drag and drop this logo to the top, you can make changes to how the structure of your app is just by dragging and dropping. You can also do that here. Say for example, you want to select and push it down below. You can do that as well. So you can do this with every element, not just image. You can do this with buttons, tables, whatever. So what have we covered so far? So we covered about pages. How can you add new pages? Then we talked about elements, and just for the example we used a image element, but there are a lot of elements. We'll talk about all of that later. And we also explored the properties of each element. So when you click on each element on the right hand side, you can see properties. All right, next is libraries. Kind of advanced. When you start, I don't think you will need libraries. This is for people who want to reuse something called components. So we will talk about that later, but just to give you a small or a tiny bit of information about it, components are like things which we can reuse. Let's say you have a button which should be available in every single page of your app. The best example I can show is, let me move myself out of the way. The best example I can show you is, you see in WeWeb, there is this chat button everywhere we go, right? Everywhere we go, there's this chat button. So it doesn't make sense for a programmer to code that chat button in every single page. So instead of coding that button in every single page, what the programmer can do is he can create a thing called component, and this component can be reused in every page. So you code it once and you use it in every page. All right, very simple. If you don't understand it, don't spend too much time thinking about it, because once you learn the whole WeWeb thing, which we're gonna do in the upcoming few videos, it will be very helpful. Components, all right, trust me. So that's what's gonna happen in libraries and plugins. One of the most important parts of WeWeb is plugins. Plugins basically allows you to connect with external applications. Say for example, you want to connect with a database like Supabase or Xano or Airtable. Every application needs a database. So if you check one of my previous videos, you'll understand the core concepts of how an application works. It requires a front end. That's where you will, or your users will access the app. And when people click on stuff or people try to do something on that front end, your front end will communicate with something called a backend. Backend can be Xano, Airtable, anything. I prefer Xano. It's one of the best backend as a service provider out there. So all my tutorials will be around Xano unless it changes. So you'll be able to sorry. So you'll be able to connect with multiple backends using plugins. And in our case, we will be connecting Xano. So all that connections will be done under here. So you will go to data sources and you will connect Xano. WeWeb connects with a lot of other backends, right? So here Supabase is a backend. Airtable can be a backend. Google Sheets can be a backend. Don't recommend it at all. And most of the backends you can build REST APIs. If you don't know what that is, it's just a protocol used by servers to communicate between each other, right? So if you're brand new, if you want to follow No Code Republic, then you should definitely just go for Xano, right? And authentication, it's just like plugins, but specifically built for logging in, logging out, and creating users, right? And Xeno can be used here as well. Extensions, these are things which you can use to import new or external things. Say for example, you want to import charts. So charts extension, it will help you show beautiful charts on your dashboard if you're into it. We don't use it much, but sometimes you may need it. So in that case, you can make use of extensions. So that is what's going to happen under extension. Auth, this is where you will configure how your users can log in and log out. Remember, in plugins, we have to connect an authentication plugin, right? So after you connect the authentication plugin, here you can basically connect a authenticator for your app. Most of you will be Xeno. Copilot, it's a new release from WeWeb. It's basically an AI that will help you create new things. For example, if I can ask stuff like adding image that bounces with animation, and it's gonna help you build that, right? It's gonna give you how to, it's gonna give you an idea on how to build this yourself. It's also gonna give you a guide link, so might be helpful. I don't really use it much, but it's here if you want it. Next is this more. Here you can configure the mobile app. So WeWeb doesn't let you create a native mobile app. It only allows you to create a PWA mobile app. Basically means it will be a website that will be converted into an app. It's not a real app like the Amazon app you might have. The app will basically load your website, your WeWeb app, on a browser, but it's not going to look like a Chrome window. It's going to look like an app. It's very similar, just a technical difference. Trigger app workflows. This is where you'll be able to create triggers and workflows. Just a quick word about workflows. Workflows are the things that will help you communicate between your application and your backend, and it will also help you do stuff in your application. I know that's a very abstract thing to say, do stuff, because there are a lot of things you can do. For example, you want to make this image disappear or change it to a different image when you click on a button, right? You need to make use of workflows to do that. So basically what workflows is when an action happens, what should the app do? That there's a logic, right? In workflows, you will be able to configure that logic so that every time somebody clicks on that button or click on the image, the app knows how to behave. So this is like basically a set of instructions you're going to give the WeWeb app so that it knows how to handle each trigger. Trigger is basically anything a user can do in the application. So if I click on a button, that's a trigger. If I click on an image, that's a trigger. If I just put my mouse over this image, that's another trigger, right? So there's a trigger. When a trigger happens, what should the app do? That's what's gonna be configured under app workflows. App languages, we already covered that. Images, files, fonts, icons. Here you can basically upload assets which you want to use in your app. So you want to upload an image like this or icon. Maybe you want to upload a PDF that will go under files. You want to use a specific font, a special font designed by you. You can do that under fonts and all that here. Custom code. So those who are into coding stuff, you want to put some JavaScript in your application. This is where you go. Redirections. This is where you will configure WeWeb app to redirect to another page if a user visits a specific URL. Don't worry if you don't know what that means. We will learn that in the future videos. Headers, this is where you can configure headers like iframe embedding. It basically means do you allow your app to be shown inside other websites? All right, so those of you who know what iframe is, you would have already understood that. If you don't know what iframe is, chances are you don't really care about what this is. All right, so just let's move to the next one. Settings, it's the overall settings of your app. You want a dark theme or light theme, the basic background of the app, then all that, basic settings you can configure under settings. And development, this is if you want to code, so we're gonna skip that. Okay, so that is the overview of the top level menu. And now here on the right side menu, we have an undo button, right? So the undo button here, you can see as much as like when I click, it's gonna go back. I can also go to initial state, which was basically blank, and I can also use the undo and redo button. Very useful because we, at least myself, I learned by breaking things, right? So when I break things, I can always go back. Very helpful. All right, go back and go forward. Self-explanatory. This is a refresh button. Very useful when you start working with a backend, because backend will be sending data. We will learn how to do that in a second. But this is where you can reload the app so that that data is fetched again and again. Now there is two modes to WeWeb editor. There is an editor mode and a view mode. So if you click on this editor mode, this is the pencil, like the pen or pencil. I think it's a pencil. Anyway, click on it. That's the editor mode. When you're in editor mode, you can do stuff like this. You can drag and drop. When you click on each element, it's going to show the properties on the right side. We explored that. But the viewer mode, this is for you to preview the app just like how your users are going to preview it, right? So here I cannot click and drag and drop or edit anything. So this is a preview mode. Okay, so in preview mode, all you can do is just use the app like a visitor. We can also call it a read-only mode. So you're not given any ability to edit the app whatsoever. So that is a viewer mode. All right. Next, we have different device previews. So if you don't know, when you build an app, it's always a good idea to optimize your app for mobile phones as well. So if you have logged into Facebook in a desktop, you might see something like this, right? So here is Facebook in desktop. So this is how Facebook looks like on a desktop. All right. This is our group with basically nobody now, but if you are interested in joining our Facebook group and networking with fellow entrepreneurs, no coders, and solve problems, together we rise, join our Facebook group. Link will be in the description. All right, shameless plug, but let's move on. The same page will look a bit different if it's on a phone. So let me switch to a phone, right? So in phone, it's very different. So the cover doesn't look like a two-column thing. It looks like a one-column thing, and basically it's a different version of the website. Now, you do not have to rebuild everything when you are building a mobile version. That's the best part about WeWeb. For example, this is how your website is going to look like on desktop. If you switch this to this mobile phone icon, you can see the editor kind of switched to a smaller screen, and you can drag and drop elements and optimize this for mobile. We will learn about this optimization in detail later, but for now, just understand WeWeb, by just switching between this desktop and mobile, they will let you build different versions for different screen sizes. I don't create things for tablet, but desktop and mobile, I always build versions for desktop and mobile, because about 70 to 80% of traffic in the internet is from a mobile, believe it or not. So desktops, now great for building apps and projects and all that, great for work, but actual users, they might be using a phone. A lot of people don't even have a laptop or desktop because it's not required right now. Like if you're a casual user, your phone is more than enough, right? So always when you're building an app, build a mobile version, and it's not as hard as you think it might be. If you build a desktop version, you can easily just drag and drop and do some stuff to make it mobile optimized, and we will show all that in the upcoming videos, right? So that's the mobile and desktop versions. And on the right hand side, this is where you can publish your app. So this app, it's a free project, so I'm not able to publish anything. I can only preview it inside my editor. So that is that. But when you get a paid plan, when you upgrade your plan to, I guess the starter plan is $49. Once you upgrade it to a $49 plan, you'll be able to publish it so that you can, or your customers can access your app through a domain, right? So that is the use of this button. You can publish the app and everybody who uses the app will get a new version. So every time you finalize a new feature and you want to deploy that feature to your customers, you will build it, you will test it in the customer view mode, and then you will publish. All right, so that's what you're going to do. Now the last part which I want to cover is data collections. So here we talked about different sections that can be used inside the page, right? That's under layout. Now there are a bunch of things which you can do in a page. There is something called data. So if you switch to data here, so layout basically gives you what are the elements that's going to show up when somebody checks the page. Data is where you will define what are the data you want to fetch from your backend, right? Say for example, you have a Google Sheet with list of 500 people and you want to pull that Google Sheet data, show it here as a list. How can you do that? You will do it by going to data and building something called a collection. Collections should be a separate video, so I'm not gonna break it down in this video, but basically just understand this. Collection is a connection to your backend which will bring in data from your backend to WeWeb. So whenever someone logs into your app, your collection page, your collection is going to fetch data from your backend. It can be Xeno, it can be Google Sheet or any backend source you use. You can fetch data from that backend source and show that data in your front end. In our case, that would be WeWeb. All right, so that is what you will use in collections. And below that, there is variables. Variables is very useful. You will use a lot of variables when you build your app. Variables are used to store data and, well, just store data. It's best to show you how to use variables in one of the upcoming videos, so we will be doing that as well. But basically, if you switch to data, this is where you will find variables and collections. Now, one last tab is actions. Actions, you can create two things. You can create workflows. Remember, when you click on a button, what should happen? The instruction set on how to handle each and every trigger, that can be done in workflows. All right, so it's not complicated, it's very simple. So let me just show you a quick demo on an action happening. Maybe I want to show a I want to change a theme, or I want to navigate to a different page, right? So I can set all of this. It's a drag and drop builder. Just like you build your app, you will build your workflow by dragging and dropping elements. It's really cool. All right, so actions. So workflows, this is where you will create workflows. You can create workflows, delete workflows, add workflows, and formulas. This is a bit advanced, but you will also use this. This is basically JavaScript codes which you can run on your app. And don't get scared, you don't have to code anything. In my apps, I just use ChatGPT to write simple JavaScript codes, and it does a pretty good job, right? So ChatGPT or Claude or any good LLM can write code these days. So don't worry about writing code on your own. But basically, Formulas is where you will put in some JavaScript if you want to do that. And we also have a log section. So this looks like a ladybug, right? So if you click on it, it's going to show you everything that is happening in your app. This is very useful when you debug. Let me clear this by clicking on this clear button. And if I reload, here you can see everything that is happening in your app is shown as a list of I don't know what it's a list of, it's a log. All right, that's it. This is something which we will use to debug the application, because sometimes our app will be a bit naughty. It will not do what we programmed it to do. It will act weird or something. In that case, we will look at our logs, figure out what is wrong, and fix it. All right, so that is what the logs are for. All right, so that was the introduction to WeWeb. We created our first project. I gave you an overview of the WeWeb editor, and what I recommend you guys do now is go to WeWeb, create a free account, create a test project, drag and drop stuff, create containers, create sessions, click on these things, change the width, height, whatever. What I want you guys to do really is, you see, watching a video like this, yes, it can be informative, but you will only learn things if you really get your hands dirty. So you have to log into WeWeb and try to build something, break things. If you break things and cannot figure out how to do stuff, then you can always ask our Facebook group. Brand new, it's just me now, but I promise it's gonna grow. Trust me, right? And even if it's just me, I'll be there to answer your question. So just try to do stuff in WeWeb editor, and yeah, that's how we will learn. So I guess that is it for this video. We will speak to you in another video at a later time. So thank you.